The following is a presentation of Project Independence and WCWP. Project Independence is the Aging in Place initiative of the town of North Hempstead. We provide programs and services designed to assist and support the older town residents who wish to remain in their homes as they age. If we don't currently provide a service, we will try and connect you to that service. Call 311 or 869-6311 to get more information or receive services.
Welcome to Project Independence and You.
Good morning and welcome to Project Independence and You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. Your host today, Rebecca Miller, along with our co-host, Otto Lohse. Good morning, Otto.
Good morning, Rebecca. Beautiful day.
Beautiful day out. And our fabulous radio show producer, Kristina who pulls this show together every week with great guests and interesting topics. And of course, the second hour of the show is Talk of the Town, where Kristina has the lowdown on everything going on. And sometimes we actually get to talk about it and not talk about other things. But I'm really looking forward to our guest today, and especially because one of our guests has a very special connection to Kristina. But the reason that they're on the show today, of course, is because I'm going to be talking about wellness safety technology for seniors. So we have John Lupino, Staab, and also Amanda Spratt. And Amanda is very close with Kristina, if I could say, even a future sister-in-law. So even more part of the Project Independence family too. So it's great to meet you all. And I know that you're coming on behalf of General Security, Inc. And we're going to be talking today all about wellness and safety for seniors is really what Project Independence is all about. And, with the advancements of technology, 20 years ago, what we were able to do versus what we can do today. I read so much about what you're doing and, like family members being able to monitor their loved ones from California and, just being able to keep an eye on it. But why don't if one of you could give just kind of a little background about the company and how you came to be, we'd love to learn more about that.
You want to go, John? Yeah.
So General Security has been on Long Island, I would say probably since the 70s now?
59 is an oil company, and then 70s is
an alarm company. So we obviously don't just install and provide wellness solutions. We're what we would call ourselves a security integrator. We sell residential intrusion alarms, fire alarms, camera systems. We also install commercial solutions for commercial fire alarm, access control, video solutions, and wellness is a part of our offering as well. So we're about 140 employees. We have 10 branch locations all throughout New York State, and we're actually in 5 states, or Virginia, North Carolina, and Florida. So we've been at this for many, many years. It's all we do. And I personally been with the company going on 22 years. L's
about 10 now.
I got 6.5.
So a lot of longevity.
Baby.
And we, the wellness we're seeing is something that's growing, and it's a growing opportunity. And we've partnered with some fantastic companies to be able to provide some really nice solutions for that product segment.
Could we start maybe with kind of an overview of what the end results would be that you try to accomplish with what you offer, and then back our way down to how do you get there? Why would you want to bother with what you're talking about? What would you gain from it? And then how do you get there? What do we have to do to get there?
Well, as Al likes to say, we try to do a needs assessment with the client. And a lot of times in a wellness situation, you're not really just dealing with, the person that's in the home. You're also dealing with family members. And sometimes family members may have different perspectives or different goals and maybe different ideas of what they'd like to see done versus the person that you're really trying to protect or provide care for. So there's always a little bit of a balancing act there. You don't want to be intrusive to the person that's, that you're trying to, providing some care for, but also trying to balance that with what the family really wants to accomplish. So as Al would say, we try to perform a needs assessment and work our way from there.
Every situation is different. We call it care when we're not there. With the recent nursing home problems in New York State, with COVID, people have a fear of going into nursing homes. And the big thing is, excuse the term, independence is part of the name of your show. Well, it is about independence. As people get older, things get taken away from them, whether it's their driver's license or anything like that. And when you take them out of their home, that's even worse. They really lost total independence. So it gives them the ability to stay in their home for a longer period of time. We break it down as you get the care receivers and the caregivers. So the caregivers could be the children or friends or some relative, and the care receiver is the person within the home who's getting the benefit of feeling safe, keeping their independence. Within an eco-structure, you can build based on what their needs are. Based, as John mentioned, based on what the caregiver wants to see and what the care receiver needs. So really every situation is different.
So basically, you're like, I used to call it a site survey. When you talk about a needs assessment, it's kind of like, what do I, the caregiver, want, and what do you think? Maybe the care receiver probably in some cases really don't care. They don't want anybody meddling in their space, if you will. So you kind of have to judge what might be good for the care receiver. So basically you come up with a plan then in terms of how you're going to help both sides, if you will. Is this like a verbal plan, or do you give them like a proposal that says, here's what we can do? And, like I read, you have various components that make up the system between sensors and an app and cameras and whatever. You don't just ship a box to somebody and tell them, here's all the pieces to the puzzle. Now you make the puzzle, kind of thing.
Yeah, so everything we provide is professionally installed. We have installers that would come to the home. Once the plan has been developed of what we're going to do, what services we're going to provide, we do have a professional installation that takes place, and it's done by our installers, which are employees of General Security. We're not subcontracting that out to some other company that comes in. We don't just, like you said, ship a box to the client and have them figure it out. We do the whole installation start to finish. We do the training with the end user and with the family members that want to be involved in that caregiving. And we take it from start to finish. So yes, we do develop a proposal. We give them a written proposal in the survey phase. Prior to the proposal, we will go through some product documentation, show them what the options are, what sensors are available, and let them kind of guide us in really what solutions they want to achieve. And it's not just wellness. The products that we utilize can be leveraged in other ways as well. It can be not just wellness. It can be a home intrusion alarm. It can be fire alarm protection. Think of fire as a risk for somebody that maybe it's somebody in the home where mobility is an issue, where they couldn't exit the home quickly. Well, fire protection is an important part of that solution for someone like that. So the quicker we can respond to an emergency, the better. So there's layers of different types of protection we can also build onto that platform. So it's not just one widget that we put in and all it can do is wellness. We can actually do a whole host of things with that control system that we put in.
You could do it in stages if you chose to. You could start out with the foundation of some kind.
Yeah, we do see that pretty often, where we'll start out with a few sensors that they wanted. Then down the road, a few months later, they may say, "Oh, we want that chair sensor, or we want that, that wind motion detector, or that camera that you talked about." So yeah, you can layer on, as you go.
Because you're a lot of the services you're providing and the alarm systems and the monitoring all seem to require, I want to say, different levels of monitoring. So like if somebody's having a fire alarm put in, who's monitoring that? If the fire alarm goes off, does it go to the fire department? Does it go to you guys? What kinds of support do people have? Because obviously what you guys are installing is 24/7. It's active. So I'm curious what levels and what types of support you provide, or is it all on the homeowner to kind of link their particular system to a support, the fire department, the police department, or family out west, or whatever they need to do.
So General Security also owns and operates a central monitoring center. So it's called United Central Station. And that's also here in Long Island. It's in Oyster Bay. So we monitor our own alarm. So whether it's a fire alarm, intrusion alarm, or wellness and all the sensors that go along with wellness, those signals, when that emergency happens, those signals report to our central station. And the technology we use, on the most common technology we use today to transmit those alarms is cellular and internet technology. So the control system in the home has a built-in LTE cellular communicator, and that's how the signal gets from the home to our receiving equipment in our monitoring center. And then once we receive that signal, we have obviously instructions and scripts that we follow depending on the type of alarm. So if it's fire versus intrusion versus wellness, if it's fire, we're dispatching fire department. If it's intrusion, we're dispatching police. If it's a medical emergency, we're dispatching EMS. And we have protocols and everything that we follow for all those different types of alarms. So we really control the solution from start to finish in terms of not only we're doing the site survey, the professional installation, the service on it, we're also doing the monitoring and the dispatching. So it's really an end-to-end solution. And
Right.
it's really general security from start to finish.
When you say the monitoring, looking at the website, you monitor, and I'll list a few things, all right, like medication, nutrition, energy, the kitchen, safety. How do you monitor? I asked a lot of questions in one there, but how basically theoretically do you monitor that so people will understand, the concept of how do you get the end result, which is really to monitor these things that I just mentioned, one of the end results.
Yeah.
How do you get there?
So that's where the caregivers come in to some degree. So we can set different parameters within our partner alarm.com. Has the ability to do all sorts of notifications and monitoring of certain types of activity. So if you want, if you take, for example, a chair sensor, for example. So say you have someone that spends a significant amount of time in the chair during the day, you can monitor the activity of that sensor in terms of, does that person get up? Have they gotten up X amount of times within a certain period of hours? And if something falls outside of the normal parameters that you would expect, alarm.com can generate a notification to the caregivers of saying, hey, that person, has been in the chair now 10 hours. We haven't seen any activity where they've gotten up from the chair. That's outside your normal range of what we would expect. And it fires off a notification, which can be in the form of text message, email, or both, into a multitude of caregivers simultaneously. So if you have a loved one that has 3 children and those children could be in 2 different states, we can send off that email, that notification, or an SMS text simultaneously to all 3 individuals. And then they can, try to look in on mom or dad or whoever it might be, and try to figure out what's going on. So you can take, we can do those types of things with a multitude of sensors. Could be a refrigerator door, it could be a door leading to the outside, it could be a door to a medicine cabinet. We can monitor sensor activity and set parameters around that. And then when there's exceptions that happen, we can react to those exceptions and send those notifications.
So that goes back to when Al
Basically what it
talked about.
does, what it does is they call it rules. They're allowed to call it empower. Alarm.com calls it empower, which allows the caregivers to create rules. When somebody gets up and walks through this door, I want notification. When somebody gets up, walks down the hallway, I want this light to go on. But that's really up to them. We help in the beginning to set that up. Once they're in there, they can really create whatever they want. If this happens between 8 a.m. and 9 o'clock tonight, I want notification. It's really very easy, simple to use for the caregivers, and they can create any rules they want based on what their needs are.
Now, these rules, I'm sorry, but are they created on an app, on a phone, or Is that how the rules are established?
With alarm.com, you have it's a unified platform where you can log in from a computer to the platform and set up the rules. Not only set up the rules, but view activity, do all sorts of different things. But you can also log into the platform from a tablet or from a phone. They have mobile applications that are obviously easy to install, easy to use, free to download. It's really, you can get at it from a multitude of applications: PC, laptop, tablet, mobile phone, all accessible.
Apple Watch, even if you got one.
When you do your needs assessment that you talked about, Al, in the beginning, do you give suggestions along the way, like, from your experiences as to?
We do. We
maybe-
kind of walk through a litany of questions based on, do you vacation a lot? Do they like to take walks? Are you afraid of slip and fall? Are you afraid of, how much medicine do they take? You have to ask the questions, 'cause sometimes, you have to probe a little bit just to make sure you hit all the hot buttons. Something as simple as power outages. If somebody's on oxygen or they're using some kind of dialysis equipment, or they have to be in certain room temperatures, you'll get notification that the power went out. That's important. Somebody can run over there. You call the neighbor, even if you're in Florida and they're in New York. You call the neighbor, they run over, they handle it. You call somebody, at least right away. And that's just a small example of one of the notifications you would get. That wouldn't go to our central station, but it would definitely go to one of the caregivers. So, because those things are important. So, like I said, every situation is different. You have to base it on who that person is, what they want, what they need. You can extend it to video. There's a camera that has two-way communication where I can just pop in and look and see into a certain room and communicate, two-way communication, as if we're sitting right next to each other in the room. It really works great. On top of that is a button. So on the other side, if the care receiver got nervous, instead of dialing a phone looking for a number, all they do is hit the top of that button. It dials to a designated person, and they can start communicating and talking. There's also hot buttons you can put around the house. If there's a problem, they hit the button. There's fall detection. Now, getting back to some of what John said, it's smart technology. So every device in the house, even a motion sensor or a sensor, with the alarm not being armed, is still recording data. So it builds a profile of who that person is. And to John's point, after a while, that profile, something changes. You'll get notification, unusual activity. Something changed in the home. Who's allowed to come in? What time of the day are people allowed to enter the home? There's so much you can do. It's incredible.
I think it is incredible. I mean, they know I've talked in the past about the technology world and what's come along, like smart homes and whatever. The problem with it is that most people, you go into a store and you see a whole area with 400 smart home devices. And now how do you integrate and pull that all together without becoming a technical wizard? It requires some knowledge and, and you have to pay for that knowledge, of course. That doesn't come.
Yeah. The beauty of alarm.com is it pulls in a lot of different things. Yeah. You have products out there now like Simply Safe and Ring, and you'll be on 4 or 5 different platforms. You really need alarm.com allows you to go to one app, one place, and pull all that stuff together. They have doorbell cameras, they have the other video cameras, they have the fire we talked about, the burg intrusion area. I mean, there's so much stuff you can pull together under one app. If you're going to go to a store and start buying different things, 4 or 5 different apps, and it makes it more complex and not as easy to use.
Okay, on that note, we have to take a quick break. We are listening to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org, and we will be right back with the team from General Security, Inc.
Take WCWP with you wherever you go with the WCWP app. Listen live 24/7 to all of our streams, all from one app. Plus, call the studios directly from the app and visit our social media. Download the app through the iOS App Store on Apple devices or the Google Play Store on Android by searching WCWP Radio, or visit WCWP.org for links. The WCWP app, available now on iOS and Android devices.
Welcome back to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm your host, Rebecca Miller, along with our co-host, Otto Lohse, and of course, our radio show producer, Kristina Lou, who pulls great guests together every week. And now we have a great trio from General Security, Inc., and we're learning all about the products and all their installations. So I know, Al, you had mentioned a couple of things and I had questions come to mind. One thing you mentioned was, okay, so if the power, if there's a power outage, what if there's a power outage in a house? Are there backup batteries, or what happens in that kind of instance? Because on Long Island, it happens all the time. And a lot of people don't have that generator, especially, in a senior's home.
Yeah. So in the system, there's what we call a control panel, and that's really the hub of the communication as far as the sensors talk to the control panel talks to our central station, it talks to alarm.com. The control panel has battery backup built into it. It's got a lithium battery backup. So if you have a power outage, the system will still run, still be able to communicate out any emergencies or alarms. But it also, like Al said, will also send out that notification that, hey, home has a power outage. And not only does it send you a notification, it also gives you a little bit of a detail in the notification. It'll tell you if the outage is specific to your home, and it'll tell you how many people in your area are out of power. So basically what it says is you have a power outage. There's also X thousands of customers in the area that also have a power outage. So you get an idea if it's something localized to the home or if it's a widespread outage, but the system does just have battery backup.
Right. And the other question I had was, because we are Project Independence, Town of North Hempstead, and I believe we have the oldest population on Long Island in terms of township. So we, seniors are, very active, well into their 80s, 90s, and it's not unusual for, people to live into their hundreds in their homes, and that's what our program is all about. And, a lot of these homes are not set up for, I want to say, what you guys are providing. So what is the minimum requirement to have a monitoring system or the type of alarms that you all provide?
Minimum requirement in terms of equipment?
Wi-Fi, connectivity, like that kind of a thing. Yeah.
So the control panel has built-in cellular communication. So if you're doing just sensors, security, intrusion, fire, contacts to monitor opening and closing of devices, a chair mat or a bed mat, medicine cabinet contact, all those things will communicate to our control panel and communicate to the central station, alarm.com, through that cellular connection. So if they had no internet at all, we can still do all of those things. Where the internet is critical is when you get into things like video. So if you want to have that wellness camera where you can do two-way video and some two-way audio to talk to some people, where the caregivers can look in on their loved one, that's where the internet is needed. The internet can also provide a backup means of communication to the cellular. So if there was ever an issue with cellular, but you had internet at the home, we can connect our control equipment to the home's internet as a secondary means of communication. So it gives you some redundancy, but you can do a lot of things in the home without internet. But when you get into some of the things related to video, you really do need to have internet access.
I mean, I don't think that there's that many people that only have a cable box still, but there are some, but I think for the most part, at minimum, mostly everyone at this point will probably have Wi-Fi. And if not, I guess you find out in your needs assessment and then make whatever recommendations to the family or whoever else to get that set up too.
There's multiple radios built in. There's Bluetooth, there's what they call Z-Wave, there's the frequency between the sensors. That are all within the panel. The only thing is the Wi-Fi is not generated through the panel. So all the other device, door locks, things of that nature, thermostats, that's Z-Wave communication. Bluetooth, there's other devices. So all those things work, without any Wi-Fi at all. Wi-Fi, to John's point, is we call it dual path. You have two means of communication back to the central station. So if one went out, the other would be there. But other than viewing remotely on the video, pretty much everything else can be handled just through that panel.
Do you typically get more involved with the caregiver than the care receiver? Um, it strikes me that you would, because I think a lot of care receivers, as Rebecca pointed out, could be 90 or whatever, and not really up to snuff as far as this type of thing goes. Is that true?
You're dealing with the caregiver, they're usually the children or a friend or a relative of some kind. There's a couple things come to them. Number one is the guilt. You know, they feel guilty. They're in Florida and their mother's back in New York and they're worried they're not there. So through video, they can communicate and talk. And they feel like they're doing something because they are protecting them. The biggest issue is falling with most of them. The panel we're talking about does have fall detection. So if they fell down, we get notification on that. That'd be something that the central station would know and would first try to call, because what they have is two-way voice to the panel. And if it's set up, they can actually speak through the alarm panel and say, "Mrs. Jones, are you okay?" If they don't get a response, or they get a response that says, "No, I fell," they're dispatching and they're coming. They're actually coming out with another device that's called PERS. And what they do is it's got triangulation. So if they wanted to take a walk, if they were able to walk down to the corner or to the park, even if they fell out in the street, it would communicate back and say, "Mrs. Jones just fell." And it's got the two-way communication, and it even tells you where they are through triangulation. That can all be done through alarm.com. That product's just coming out now. The one within the home is already available. But falling is the biggest fear, it seems, with the elderly when they're in the home, because
The number one killer of seniors is falling.
But just to take another step, just let's set up a scenario. So Mrs. Jones, I'm going to keep using Mrs. Jones. Mrs. Jones goes to bed every night at 8:00. She gets up 3 or 4 times a night, use the bathroom. When gets out of bed at 8:00, goes to the refrigerator, gets a milk for a coffee, goes to the medicine cabinet at 9:00, sits in her favorite chair at 10:00 to watch Oprah. She gets up, has lunch, builds a profile of what her activity is every single day. All of a sudden, you get notifications, something changed, the usual activity. You can call them up, "Mom, how you doing?" Or, "What's happening there?" They're probably going to say, "Oh, nothing, I'm just not feeling too good." You can call a neighbor to come over, you can call the doctor. So there's a lot of things that, again, it gets rid of the guilt. You're there, you feel like you're doing something, you can communicate with them. And there's a cost difference. Think about what nursing homes cost. You're talking about $7,000 to $10,000 a month. Insurance picks up some of that in some cases. But here, other than the initial investment, which isn't that high, it could be anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000, the monthly fee usually ranges between $30 and $50 or $60 a month. So it's considerable savings. So, and again, they maintain that independence. We've all seen it. The minute you take the car away and put them in a nursing home, it's a nosedive.
The initial cost is that, do you actually buy these devices, or are they like you buy the sensors and whatever, and then you pay like a service charge for the system itself?
Yes.
Is that, yeah. And I'm assuming that you would give them a proposal, as you pointed out earlier. Here's what you get if you buy these things, you get these benefits.
Right.
And if you go to the next level, what you just said, I made a note myself here. People are going to say, "Oh, it probably costs a lot." It might cost a little more than you think it ought to cost, but if you compare it to the option of not staying at home safely and having to go to a nursing home and pay $100,000 a year, it's not a bad deal, really. It'll keep that expense from being part of your life for a long time. I like it. I do have a question. Like we have been preaching here almost, if you will, about seniors using Alexa as a device for some of the things you described, nowhere near in the depth that you described, but it is a device that can be used for entertainment. Play music for me, read me a book or whatever. Can that be synchronized with this program without conflict?
Yes.
Okay.
But you do need the Wi-Fi for that, though.
Yeah, right.
But you can say, "Alexa, change the, turn on my lights, Alexa, any other, lock the door,
Right.
those kind of things.
Turn on my security
Turn on
system.
my security system,
There are some voice command integrations between alarm.com and Alexa. And even between Google's voice command system too. There's some basic integration voice commands in there as well.
Now,
So would you look at that as part of the setup, the needs assessment?
it's already there. Taking a step further, you can also, if they're still driving and you're concerned, there's a device we can put in the car that also integrates with this whole system that says, this is where the car is now, how fast they were going, different other things that are associated with the vehicle. So again, as the caregiver, the car can be pulled into it, who comes in the house, who comes out of the house, who has codes to come in. There's so many things you can pull. Certain temperatures. The temperature has to be 75 degrees in the room. You can make sure that that's focused on that. It's always 75 degrees. It's endless as to what you can do.
Yeah, I like the phrase, used to use a lot, exception reporting. What I'm hearing is if there's exceptions to the rules, that's what you report. Otherwise, you really don't report anything because there's nothing to report.
It's really up to you. You can filter it out if you want.
Right. Years ago, people would get a report printed on a computer with these pin feed reports. The report would be that thick. And within there was something important, within that whole stack. But what really mattered was the exception that was on page 98 or something, and that's important that's the way it works. That you get information about when there's a problem, when there's an exception. And I think that's critical.
I have a question. It just seems like it would make sense, but I don't know if they do this. Like new home builders, are they all now incorporating, I guess, at least the ability to set homes up for these types of monitoring? Is there a requirement now? Because it doesn't seem like we're going to go backwards anytime soon. It seems like technology is just going to make advancements. So I'm wondering if that's it, and if you guys, do you work with new home builders in any format, either installing for them or as advisors?
Yeah, so we are definitely seeing new home builders are adopting smart home technology. Maybe not centered around wellness, but they're definitely adopting smart home technology where you've got lighting control, door locks, HVAC control, and then obviously you've got your security and your fire protection. Fire protection is obviously required as part of a new home. So we're definitely seeing home builders adopt that, and in some of our markets in Virginia and Florida, we are working with home builders and have made inroads with them to incorporate a lot of these smart home features because the consumer wants it. They're starting to see a demand for consumers. Maybe 5 years ago, it was a nice to have, but now home builders are starting to see that this is what the homeowners want. This is what they're starting to expect in the home. So they are starting to partner with companies like us and alarm.com to provide those solutions. So we are seeing that. Obviously, for us, there's a lot more home construction going on in the Southeast, than we see in the Northeast, obviously.
Not much going on here, right?
So when you have a knockdown.
Yeah.
Well, there are, there's a lot of 55 and over places certainly that are popping up when they can. There's a lot of new ones. So I'm wondering if they're incorporating a lot of, this stuff or the ability to at least, at some point convert to it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point because a lot of times when we talk about wellness, people immediately think of, elderly, and we're really seeing it's not just a product for, somebody that's in their 80s or their 90s. It's really an offering because it can be so tailored and so, specific to what you want. We're really seeing it's a product really for people in their 50s or 60s or 70s because you may just want a medical pendant or an emergency pendant to carry around the house. And, maybe you're in your 60s and that's what you want. And then maybe you want a door lock or maybe you want smoke detectors. So it's not just a product for people that are in their 80s. And that's one of the I think misnomers that are out there. It's really, something of all ages.
Right. Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, we're obviously a senior program, so the services that you're providing for that. But I know that the network is much bigger, and people who travel, like they show the commercials, they're traveling, they want to see what's going on in and around their house. I mean, I have Ring. I'm always, I want to keep an eye on the house, and it's super convenient. And I could see who's home, who's not home. You could do a live video of the house. And I know that, Ring in certain instances is also solved crimes, with things, people who have packages delivered. So, that's just kind of on the lower end of the technology. But yeah, it's.
But you raise a point
exciting.
though, would something, not use the word ring necessarily, but would that kind of thing, like a monitoring of the door, be part of a wellness package?
Certainly can be.
Can be,
Could
yeah.
be.
Yeah, so alarm.com has a whole video analytics suite that you can obviously utilize to send notifications and triggers to the homeowner or other people, could be loved ones or people outside the home. If somebody approaches the door, or somebody rings the doorbell, we can push that notification to a myriad of people. And you can set all sorts of rules around video. So even if, say it wasn't a doorbell camera, but maybe you had a camera on the driveway, and you want to know if a car pulls in the driveway, we can look for that activity. We can send those notifications to whoever they want it sent to when a car pulls in the driveway, or if a person's walking around the property, all those, those types of things. And you can set schedules for those notifications. So if you only want that notification from 8 o'clock at night to 6 in the morning, you can do that. There's a whole analytics suite on the video solutions that we can set up. And you raised a good point about people traveling. Amanda can speak to this. I'm sure she can tell you about how many clients we have in Long Island that go to Florida or go to the Carolinas for the winter, and the things that we can do. I'm sure you see that all the time.
Yeah, so ultimately what I would do is I will handle all new installations. If there are any questions or concerns or anything like that, because some of these people have never had an alarm system before, or,
Right.
They've never been able to use them or be taught how to use them. So I'm the first contact there. If there's any questions or concerns, or, they just need extra help on learning how to use these things or using the website. We have people call in from all over the place, especially even locally. If you have a house in the city, but you also have your nice beach house in the Hamptons and you want to be able to do both, we have the option to have both of those homes, or your house in the Hamptons, your house in the city, and then your mom's house up in Manhasset. You can access all three of them at the same time, and being able to have someone that I can connect with immediately in order to have those things resolved is kind of where I come into play as like a bit of like a soft pillow, a soft integration into using the alarm for them.
Right. Okay. Well, actually, this is a good point to take a break. So great information here. We're speaking with John and Al and Amanda from General Security, Inc. And we will be right back. You're listening to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org.
So I get this call from my grandma, and she's like,
"What's a podcast and how much does it cost?"
So I tell her, podcasts are like radio shows, but you can download them on any device and listen to them anywhere at any time, and they're free. And then she says,
"I see, but where can you find good ones?"
And I'm like, go to WCWP.org/podcast and check out the lineup of original shows, or download any podcast app on your phone or tablet and search for LIU Studios. And she's all like,
"Oh, that sounds easy."
And then she asked me what an app is.
LIU Studios podcasts, available on any podcast app. Those little button things on your phone screen. Just ask your grandkids.
Welcome back to Project Independence in You on 88.1 FM and WCWP.org. I'm Rebecca Miller, along with Otto Lohse, and of course our radio show producer, Kristina Lou. And we're speaking with John Lupino and Al Staab, and of course Amanda Spratt. And they're all joining us today from General Security, Inc. And before we go any further, I just want to offer to our listeners, what's the best way to get in touch with you for any of the services you're providing?
I guess our 800 number is 800-343-2250, or through the web is www.gensecurity.com. Those are the two best ways. And that 800 number will take you to any one of our offices, depending on where you are. So that's usually
Great. And if anybody listening didn't get that, you can always call 311 and ask for Kristina or myself, and we'll make sure that you get that information. One other question I had before, I should have brought it up, was, and maybe you mentioned it, is there a savings for people on their homeowners insurance if they, and how does that work? And what kinds of savings are we talking about?
It can depend on obviously the insurance provider, different in your policy. Different insurance providers provide different discounts for security systems and fire alarms, but there definitely is a discount available if you have a security system, a fire alarm system, and which we really haven't talked about is environmental sensors, carbon monoxide, flood sensors, low temperature sensors. And you had mentioned before people traveling, and a lot of times that traveling is happening during the winter, right? So if you're worried about things like pipe freezing, if you have, your boiler goes out, we put low temperature sensors in and flood sensors in. And then if that temperature in the home gets below a certain point, we start making calls to you and notifications to you. You can have the house checked out. So we try to prevent some of those catastrophic events like a pipe bursting and floods and all that kind of stuff. So when you get into those types of things, there's definitely discounts from the insurance providers, but the amount really ranges depending on how the policy is written and who the insurance provider is. They provide different levels of discounts, but it can be, sometimes it's enough to offset the monthly expense of the monitoring fee. Like Al was saying,
Right.
typically a monitoring fee for an intrusion and fire system and with those environmental sensors can be between $30 and $35 a month, and that discount can offset a good portion of that cost.
Right. Oh,
Would you have like, say somebody who's listening has an interest, and there's all kinds of things that have been covered here, where you would have somebody, like, now we're somewhat past COVID, although it's marginal, but during COVID, I'm sure you would have a problem because you couldn't visit sites. Can you now visit sites, and would you visit sites to talk to people about what it is that they could use? What would help?
Absolutely.
As far as their needs are concerned.
Well, during
is that
COVID,
part of,
yeah, it is. During COVID, we called it contactless quotes. We would kind of stay on the outside of the house. We actually stayed busy because people were home and they got to see what was going on around their home. Well, with home, they wouldn't be home. And so we were still remaining busy. Since COVID, we send a sales executive out to the house. He walks around, does a needs assessment with the caregiver and possibly the care receiver, and we build a system based on what their needs are. Again, but we send people out to the house. But again, we do it with the COVID. We did it without going to the home, and we really didn't skip a beat. I think we're even busier in some sense.
So we do still have that option if there is a homeowner that's concerned about having somebody come in the home due to COVID. We do still have that contactless quote option on our website. And we can work with the individual. I've had clients, text me pictures. I'll ask them, they're interested in door lock. I'll ask them for a picture of the door so we know which lock we need, some pictures of the house, that kind of thing. Or if they're looking for cameras, tell them, snap a picture of what are you trying to see? Is it the driveway? What are you trying to survey with the camera? Text us a picture, email us a picture. So we have ways to do it. Without having to be at the home, but obviously we do on-site site surveys all the time.
How long does it take? Like, say you have an unsmart home and you guys are coming in and you're doing a lot of stuff. You're putting in smoke alarm, you're putting in a burglar alarm, you're doing some monitoring stuff for an older person living there, just someone who wants the house to be safe because say that it's a senior and they're going to be monitoring from out of state and they want everything they can get that makes the most sense. How long does the installation take if the house isn't, want to say, sophisticated at this time?
Yep. Typically it's the same day installation. It's the 1 day installation is what I should say. So it's, depending on the size of the system and how many sensors you're putting in, and where the sensors are going. If you're doing cameras, we may have to get some wires at certain points. And, but 99% of the time, the system we're installing is installed within the 1 day. So depending on how large it is, could be anywhere from 2-3 hours to 8 hours, depending on how much we're putting in. But there are some systems that are large enough that take 2 days, but typically it's 1 day.
Now, the bulk of these are wireless. Like I'm thinking the monitors are wireless, I'm assuming, and they have batteries in them. How do they get power? And is it a power like a new smoke detectors now with the 10-year battery? Or is it, frankly, I could visualize a beep
So-
beep going on every other day
Yep.
with the smoke detector and the monitor and then wondering where it is.
The control panel plugs into an outlet. So the control panel gets power, but has lithium battery backup. But then your sensors, like your door contacts, window contacts, bed sensors, chair sensors, environmental sensors like smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, those all have lithium batteries inside of them. It's not a sealed 10-year lithium battery like a smoke detector you would go to buy it like a Home Depot where your homeowner's putting that in themselves. One of the reasons why UL kind of pushed for a sealed 10-year lithium battery is to eliminate the problem with customers not changing the batteries. So they developed them to be a 10-year sealed battery compartment so they didn't have to rely on homeowners to change those batteries. With our systems, we typically average lifespan is about a 5-year lithium battery and a sensor and a smoke detector or door contact, but they're changeable. And the system supervises the battery life. So it's an intelligent system and it'll tell you if you have a low battery and it tells you which device the battery has. And you can also create notifications around that. So if you have a low battery in a smoke detector, let's say, the system control panel will tell you that. It'll tell you which smoke detector, but it also will send out a notification via email, text to whoever's on your notification list of that low battery situation so that you can address it.
And
So you don't have to go all over the house looking for the one that's beeping.
Right.
we do offer like once a year fire inspections where we'll come out, if you're one of our customers, we come out once a year, we can test your smoke detectors, we clean them out, we check the expiration dates on them, let you know and document how long until those things are going to expire, just to make sure that everything is working and functioning and is signaling how it is supposed to be. So if we do see that, 5 years ago or 9 years ago, we replaced those batteries, maybe we should replace them now before that beeping starts to get annoying and you can't sleep and you're taking it down and you're putting it under a pillow. So before that happens.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, like with the caregiver, they would know ahead of time. There's a warning that the battery is going to go down, so they can make arrangements if the care receiver can't do it. Maybe they can't reach it, or who knows what the problems could be. So that's a good thing. The fact that there's a system in place that warns you that this battery has a week left or whatever, pick a number. So I could then arrange from Florida to have somebody go in and change the batteries.
Right.
Okay.
It's amazing. It really is. I mean that, so you could care for your loved one in a different state and be in communication with, your monitoring services and the person, living at home. And, I do really hope that new home builders are all making homes at least ready for any one of, the services that you provide. When we first started, I just keep coming to mind as we did this access to home program 15 years ago through the United Way. So they basically were trying to make homes more accessible for seniors and people with disabilities, putting in grab bars, anything. They would go in, we'd make an assessment, determine what the needs were. And, it's like, I know today that most new home builders are making homes accessible. They have to have doorways have to be certain inches wide and, or whatever other protocols there are to make a home safe and accessible. So, it just seems like this is almost like the next step in, keeping people safe in home. Because, we are an aging in place program. So your services are definitely helpful for, what our goal is. And, of course, our goal is to have seniors age in place safely. So, there's instances where that's just not possible, but with yet another level of, monitoring, it could really, even stretch that out even longer, especially when they don't have family nearby. So, yeah, it's really great. And, I'm always curious. I'm curious about the past, like when you each started, what kinds of devices were you using? And I mean, if you look back and, you thought you were modern then, and here you are, with like, on in, live coverage of every moment and every action.
Yeah.
I mean, how have things changed I guess you said you were here 20 years.
It's really been dramatic. I mean, so if you think about the evolution of technology, first of all, the biggest change in our industry was back in the day when we used to put in an alarm system in the home, everything was hardwired, nothing was wireless. So we were trying, drilling holes, fishing wires everywhere around the home. The other thing it was attached to the home phone line, traditional copper phone line. And that's how it communicated out to the central station. So as time obviously evolved, cellular technology became more prevalent. And in our industry, really cellular communication on the alarm device really first started as a backup to the phone line. But then obviously we started seeing people are getting rid of phone lines. Nobody wants, you build a new house,
right? You're
not putting in a Verizon, AT&T copper phone line to the house anymore. So cellular communication really became the primary means of communication, and phone lines started going away. That was the first big evolution, I would say. And then wireless technology has come so far.
Right.
The ability to not only have wireless devices, but to have it encrypted. The sensors we use are a military-grade 128-bit encryption. It's in the supervising of the battery life, and now the evolution of batteries and how good they are now with lithium. It's really come a long way. And now that wireless technology has really expanded to allow us to do all sorts of things in the home.
You combine what you're just describing with the other thinking, and that I think has taken place, and that is what we always talk about, main level living. When homes were built years ago, many on Long Island, the bedrooms were all on the second floor. The bathroom was on the second floor. The washer and the dryer were in the basement. And where were you on the first floor? You were in trouble. You couldn't sleep there. So combine this whole world that we're describing with the idea that you can set your home up for main level living, and you do have a crack at staying in your house a lot longer safely. It's a whole package, really. And it really has changed dramatically, in my opinion. I mean, I've sold computers in 1969, and they were tape based. You would have big rolls of paper tape with holes punched in them. The input and the output, you'd read one and then you'd punch a new one, and then it was a whole mess. But that was the state of the art at the time.
Smartphones have really evolved. Have really driven a lot of the evolution. Like you said, computers back then, you've got a device in your hand these days that is more powerful than a computer that you would have bought at any point, 5-10 years ago. And you can do so much with that now. So it's really driven the innovation in our industry to make sure that everything we're selling solution wise is, able to be used and utilized on a mobile device. And that's where alarm.com is obviously, that's where they've come in hugely in our industry, allowing us to use a platform like that to make everything mobile friendly. And everything is becoming IoT. Everything's the Internet of Things. Everything's being attached to the internet now.
Mm-hmm.
So we have now that platform to obviously control all of our sensors and our devices and make it user friendly for the end user.
Well, everything you described, if you don't have an alarm.com, is of no use. It's like an ashtray sitting on a table.
Right.
It's useless. I mean, it really needs that mother, if you will, to take care of everything. It's like Android, or you have alarm.com. That's what you need, or you have nothing really.
They're definitely driving our industry, and it's tough to keep up with, as John was saying. I mean, every day something new comes out. It's like, wow, it's just amazing.
I actually have a friend who's texting me right now, listening. Are the assessments free? If somebody wants you to come in, you'll just make your suggestions, you'll determine. Okay.
It's free.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, I think you would want people to at least have a sincere interest that they're going to do something, that it's not just like
Right.
driving
Right,
from
like-
automobile dealer to automobile dealer,
Right.
and looking at the beauty of the car and then going to the next one.
Yeah. It's probably obvious to you to some degree that if the person is, the homeowner serious about it. And yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I'm still always amazed at technology. So it's, just been great having the three of you on the program today. And I'm sure we'll have you back. And maybe even do a chat for us at one of our programs, our in-person programs. So, I want to thank you again, John, Al, and of course, Amanda from General Security, Inc. And if anybody wants information, how to contact them, you could just give us a call here at 516-869-6311, and we'll be happy to connect you. Again, thank you so much for taking the time to be our special guest, and we appreciate the information you provided. You're listening to Project Independence in You on 88.1 and WCWP.org.